and what to do about it. Then we looked at tech-driven disruption and how to go about it. Right now, we are in session 3, where we are looking at developing skills that are responsive to the changing labor market. And the objective is to discuss how to develop skills that will be responsive to the changing labor market. So I welcome everyone on board. We shall be moderated by Akisa Wandera, who is a journalist with the Kenya Television Network. She will take us through the session. And our main speaker for this session is Muthoni Ndegwa, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Corporate Staffing Services Limited. She's been kind enough to accept this invitation, and I'm very happy, together with the rest of the panelists, that Madam Akisa Wandera will introduce. So let us give each other a chance to speak. When somebody is speaking, just please mute your mic, and I believe all will go well. So without further ado, I would welcome Akisa Wandera to take us through the session. Akisa, karibu.
Thank you very much, Juma. Always a pleasure to be here with the team at IREN and to be part of the 18th IREN African Resource Bank Forum. As you've said, our main speaker, who I'll be picking it up shortly, is Muthoni Ndegwa, the COO at Corporate Staffing Limited Services, and she'll be speaking to us about managing mismatched skills and preparing for the changing world of work. But before we get to that, let's just see who else we have for this particular session in the next 1 hour that will be part of this conversation and will be giving us useful insights on the topic of discussion. We'll be speaking to Nashon Adero. He's a mentor, the Presidential Digital Talent Program, and a lecturer at Taita Taveta University. I must say, a name not new to me. Nashon, very good to see you. He'll be speaking on about activating underutilized skills and the role of youth. We'll also have Lynette Mwende-Ndile, the Executive Director and founder of Ujana Africa, will be speaking to us about turning skills into engines of economic growth. It will be interesting to see what are the specific skills that we will be looking at. So Joseph Wekesa, the Managing Director of Delight Tea, Juvent Ntungomba, I hope I got that right, Juma, from Burundi, Wilson Balongo, School of Business and Economics from the Kabrak University, Saddam Halfan Ahmed, Head of Operations at Pamoja Communication, and George Mangi, a lecturer at Riara University. They will all be speaking to us about the skills of the future and the role of research and academia. How do we marry these two? And of course, as we go forward, ensure that we don't have what we consistently talk about, gaps, skill gaps in the labor market. And finally, we'll have Dr. Douglas Kivoi, the Senior Policy Analyst at Kipra. I will be speaking on skills of the future and the role of TVETs and industries. And Jared Musima from the Kenya YMCA CEO and Zonal Coordinator, Eastern and Southern Zone, as well as Jonah Rono, the Head of Research and Development at Sigalagala National Polytechnic. Speaking on the skills of the future, role of TVETs. Well, I realize I've been giving the wrong topics, but I hope we all have this program. This looks like an all-inclusive African feel, and I'm glad to have you all in this particular session. My name is Akisa Wandera, and I think we'll start with Muthoni for about 10 minutes, and then we'll give each speaker around 5 to 6, at most 7 minutes to speak on the specific topics. We only have an hour, so I'd ask that we try and keep time and perhaps keep some of the responses we give or explanations short, concise, and very clear. Once again, welcome to this session on developing skills responsive to the changing labor market. My name is Akisa Adero. Modoni, perhaps let's begin with, because Juma said that they talked about the current skill gaps in the labor market, some of the tech disruptions that we are witnessing. You're here to talk to us about managing mismatched skills and preparing for the changing world of work. We've seen those already in the labor market and, succeeding in it, say that there seems to be a gap between schools and training institutes and the labor market. When we say that there's a mismatch of skills, what do we mean?
Thank you, Akisa, and thank you everybody else for joining. Yes, it is true. When we talk about mismatched skills, we are referring to what the graduates who are joining the labor market have to offer and what the businesses in the working world will be requiring. So sometimes you find, yes, you have a graduate who has, say, for example, a BCom in finance, and maybe they would even have a CPA certification, CPAK as we call it. But when you go to the labor market, when you go to the business world, you find the specific skills that the business will be requiring that this particular person who is joining the business world does not have. And so you find a lot of times employers would have to make do with what is coming to the market, and sometimes even have to chip in and spend money having to train and retrain the graduates who are joining the labor market. So when you talk about mismatched skills, we are looking at what is coming into the market vis-a-vis what the market actually does require. So that's what we mean by mismatched skills, and it's really rampant. And I speak authoritatively because we deal with a lot of employers across different sectors, representing different industries, and that's the feedback that we constantly get when we are having to place candidates in different positions.
So what are we actually to? The world of work is evolving. Are we saying that our curriculum perhaps is stuck where it has always been, yet this other side continues to evolve each and every day? What's the biggest gap here?
I would say yes, to a large extent. I would say perhaps what the education system and the institutions are training, they may not exactly be very relevant to what the business world requires. And here is where we would have to look at a collaborative approach of just working together as stakeholders, where the education system and the players in that sector would have to work with, say, for example, the private sector, get to really understand what exactly does the business world require so that they can incorporate the same in their curriculum. That way, you'll be able to, just churn out graduates or, professionals who are ready for the job market. So that's then again, we don't have to retrain. So I would ask that, this is something that we may need to look at, work together, develop curriculum that is relevant. Conversations need to be very intentional. They need to be, if they haven't begun, I don't want to say they have not begun. I know there's been lots of talk about the different sectors working together to develop curriculum that gets graduates that are ready for the job market.
So then how do we solve this? Yes, you talk about, changing the curriculum. And of course, we might all be aware that there's a conversation around that. Kenya is right in the middle of changing its education system and the entire curriculum. From where you sit and being a CEO at Corporate Staffing Services, what do you think we should really pay attention to, even as we have this conversation about relooking our curriculum and ensuring that once graduates come out of school, they're ready for the job market?
Right. So there's some general skills that can be taught in school, but they also vary from industry to industry. But a good example, if you look at the digital space, a lot is happening there, and it cuts across all industries. Whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in IT, whether you're in banking, there are certain things that you need to have, there are certain skills that you need to have to be able to navigate around the digital space. So that's something that the education system or the education institutions need to look at incorporating in their curriculum, and I know that is already happening. Things like innovation. What, for example, for those that will be teaching technical courses that will be required, for example, in manufacturing sector, what are those specific things around innovation that the graduates or the professionals need to have by the time they're getting out of school? So I would say it varies from industry to industry, but there are certain general things that can be taught in the curriculums that enables the graduates to be ready for the labor market, so that then we can reduce this mismatch, and employers do not have to bear the brunt of having to retrain and sometimes train anew altogether to get the professionals ready for the jobs that they have at hand.
Until that happens, how do we manage in the meantime? How can workplaces manage?
Okay, now that we already have the issue, and of course the labor market is flooded with lots of graduates who the business world requires. Employers also need to provide an environment where, you know, the graduates can have opportunities to retrain, to reskill, for example, you know, just sometimes sponsoring the employees to go for training. That way, you know, they will be ready to be able to take up the jobs and do the jobs well. But it's also important for me to mention here that it's also the responsibility of the professional to take charge of their own personal development, not necessarily waiting for the employers to provide those opportunities. So that's what I meant when we say it needs to be a collaborative approach. So the professionals, yes, look at your career path, look at what may be lacking vis-a-vis what your role may require or where it is that you want to be, and what skills you need to be there, but also the employers to provide opportunities for the professionals to either go back to school to acquire some skills. It could be concessions, it could be fees, benefits, maybe pay a certain amount for them to go back to school. Sometimes even provide training opportunities within that they can learn certain things within the companies so that they can acquire these skills. So that way we'll be curing what we already see. Because like I said already, the job market has a lot of professionals who do not have the skills that are required in the business world. But again, it's also good to mention that we also need to think about the future so that we're not always reacting, but it can also be anticipatory, that we are looking at what does the future require? Well, what are the skills that will be needed? Look at what has happened this year. Nobody ever anticipated we would have something like this. The pandemic has totally disrupted the way we do work and how we do business. So you can imagine, do we have to wait for something similar for us to get the skills that would be required for us to navigate?
So how then, and I'm sorry to cut you short, and I like that you mentioned the future. So how then do we prepare for this ever-changing world of work? We are talking about being proactive as opposed to being reactive, as we have seen the pandemic caught all of us, I should mention, flat-footed. So moving forward, how do we prepare? This is a world that continues to change. How do we get ourselves ready?
Simply put, continuous learning. You as a professional, look at, we are all aware of what is happening in your space. For example, for you as a journalist in the media industry, you know the things that are changing. Someone else in manufacturing knows the different technologies that are being introduced into your trade. Again, someone else in IT. So it's looking at what is required and continuously learning, continuously you know, just upscaling your knowledge, knowledge sharing. And that's what professionals need to take up a challenge, take a lead in developing their own personal careers. Again, for employers, they also know what technologies they need to introduce in their businesses so that they can do business more efficiently and more effectively. Again, provide opportunities for the employees to learn. So it's collaborative, and I can't emphasize that enough, that it's collaborative as you think about the future.
Thank you. You've set the stage for us, and perhaps I hope I'll be coming back to you. We have lecturers and people in the academic world, and we are glad that we have them as a part of this particular conversation. We're talking about gaps, and the problem clearly comes from these institutions, that perhaps what graduates are learning in school, or students are learning in school, is not in tandem with what their job market requires. So I'll have the lecturers perhaps come in at this point. Wilson Balongo from Kabarak University, your thoughts on mismatch of skills?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thank you very much, Akisa Wandera. I have a contrary opinion. The problem is not from the institutions, not the curriculum, but from the Ministry of Labor. Look at the people who are heading the Ministry of Labor. Have they done what we call labor economics, demand and supply, and then advise the institutions on how many graduates to produce in what sector? Look at America, USA. Ask yourself, those green cards that people are running for, that is all about demand and supply of labor. So to the contrary, it is the Ministry of Labor and professionals in the HR that are letting us down. If the Ministry of Labor could now determine the demand and supply, then they will advise the institutions, for example, we need more plumbers as opposed to more accountants. Do they do it? They don't. So the buck stops at the Ministry of Labor. If I ask you, Ministry of Labor, what does it do? Does it advise the institutions? No, curriculums are very okay. We train these students, but the Ministry of Labor does not advise the government, does not advise institutions on the demand and supply of labor, so that you don't oversupply. And this is just basic economics. If you oversupply, you know what happens in the market about the price.
Right.
So the buck stops with the Ministry of Labor, and then we go back to the HR professionals, and we have so many quacks. That is why you see we're exporting people to Saudi Arabia, and year in, out, they're crying. So the buck stops with the Ministry of Labor. Thank you.
Okay, I'll get back to you. I have a question, but I'll get back to you shortly. I'd want Nashon, I don't know whether he's with us, from Taita Taveta University. I'd really like to hear from those in the academic world. Nashon?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, your thoughts on that?
I would like to engage what I call a systems thinking approach to address this question. We have to ask ourselves, where do we get these learners from at university? These learners came from a basic education level that shaped them to think in particular ways. So we have to begin as early as possible with timing. Even with COVID and any disaster governance, timing is key. So do we spend time, effort to ensure that we identify talents early in primary school, so that the curriculum we expose our students to, inculcating them an exploratory attitude which is matched to their talents, so that by the time they are going to tertiary level of education, they already know very well what they are cut out for and can impact society through sound and focused training. And when we talk of COVID, which has caught us flat-footed, we are invoking what we call adaptive resilience, which we need to inculcate into our learners. And finally, there's what we call system as cause thinking. That is, we must interrogate to what extent we have made ourselves vulnerable to external shocks. Is it because of the weaknesses internally that we have entertained for so long? That could be true. So we also need to ask ourselves, when we are talking of university, industry, and government collaboration, does industry have to wait until we give them graduates? Then they complain that the graduates are half-baked? No, they need to come in early as possible, to partner with government and universities or colleges, so that they can produce to the world adaptive graduates who can respond to the changing needs of the global technology marketplace, including the gig economy. So that is my challenge to industry and government, to help the university address these challenges early and mold the graduates to have the people skills, the fundraising skills, leadership skills, communication skills that we do need in the marketplace.
And you rightly put it. So then how do we nurture them? How do we do this? What you've talked about the challenges. What opportunities are there to take advantage of right now?
There are so many opportunities. For example, it has been established through research by the World Economic Forum that 65% of primary schoolers today will be engaged in jobs that have not been created yet. There are jobs that are hitherto unknown, and that takes us back to the adaptive resilience. So one way to do it is to ensure that at the basic level of education, we ensure that there's a broad base of the curriculum must be broad-based. For the pyramid to be stable, it has to be broad at the base and it has to stand upright. So if our education system is going to limit the primary school learners to just a few subjects, and we say that we want them to specialize that early, again, it will be a shot in the foot. And this is something that has also been raised when we talk of educational models in some countries, that they are overemphasizing what we call specialization. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to automation and the unpredictabilities of the modern labor market and the accompanying labor market demographics, they find that their graduates cannot adapt to the new demands. For example, Akisa, you are in journalism, and we have automated journalism, New York Times, Associated Press. In the banking sector, we have automated equity research reports, which have been successfully accomplished by banks such as Commerzbank in Germany. So how do you adapt to such changes because of the digital revolution wave? So if you're asking how we do it, then I would say that it has to be collaborative, it has to begin early. And then let me give a specific example at Taita Taveta University. Mm-hmm. I'm lecturing in the engineering department. And what we have decided to do is that we will be exposing our students to soft skills. Units such as communication skills will be spread out from the first year to the third year, including research skills, so that by the time they are choosing their final year projects, they will already be well equipped to know what the marketplace needs. And we are always inviting industry to collaborate with us as early as possible in molding these graduates. Thank you.
Thank you. A more collaborative approach between industries and schools or institutions. Thank you. Judge Mangi from Rare University, I'd like you to come in at this point. Perhaps I believe as coming from the world of academia, you'd have something to say about the mismatch and where really the gap is. But also even as you do that, perhaps the topic you're meant to handle, how then do we turn skills of economic growth? So yes, we have the skills. How do we make them useful? Our economic growth space, perhaps.
May I take that again? Because I think your voice was fluctuating.
How do we turn skills into drivers of economic growth? I believe you'll have something to say about mismatch. And, Nashon is talking about a collaborative approach between institutions and industries. But even so, once the right skills, how do we turn them then into drivers of economic growth in the country and of course continentally?
Thank you very much. Now, for me, first, I'm in the field of international relations, and for that already, we don't even talk about our country. We look at things from the international perspective. Now, I want to agree with my colleagues who have talked about why the mismatch is so rampant or why it is felt in the industry. Yeah, I can go first with the opinion that I think we've been failed by governments like the Minister of Labor, like my colleague said, and the HR. I mean, there is no right communication so that we know, hey, at this point in time, we are in the 21st century, and this is what we need, this is what is lacking in the market. Because what we are doing, we will do our work, we churn out graduates, and then you see the model on which this is built is that we are teaching students as part of their choice of what they want to do, and you never know what the motivations about that is. Yeah. For example, there is this trend as a student and also now as a teacher. I realize that students have this impression of some jobs are well paying or they are more prestigious. And then at the end of the day, they want to get, the tag, such that they belong to that profession and all that. But at the end of it all, you find that you may be getting people into this kind of career path, which at the end of the day is not going to make them as productive or contributing to the economy as could have been the expectation. Now, during my degree in education, there is something we used to be taught about called wastage of education, whereby you're investing a lot of money, you're investing your time, you take a degree for 4 years, 6 years, but then when you are out, you graduate, you realize this is not what I wanted to do in the first place. And this is where, for example, the thing about being some students getting forced to do this because their mother wants them to be like maybe a medic, wants to be a diplomat. But then at the end of the day, it doesn't sit well with them as a person, and they find the time they invested, the money that went into that is going to drain, because when they graduate, they get the paper, you find somebody just says, hey, I wanted to do DJing. And you see already that mismatch comes in. Right. And then the lack of that information from the relevant authorities, the HR departments and the Ministry of Labor. So it gives us, you find, for example, let's talk about the higher education loans, that investment, the monies they pump in, and then you find somebody does not take up or does not use whatever skills they learned at college level to develop themselves, that way. Okay. Then the other thing, the question you asked about how then, after you get this information, do you make these people adaptive? I think that it has something to do with the curriculum, such that in the academia, we'll come up with a curriculum that fits in to what is required in the labor market, such that we minimize the wastage of education, as we could say. Now, in IR, I've been in IR for the last 7 years, and there's one trend I realized. So many students are so excited in joining that career path, And when you want to sit with them down and objectively ask about their motivation, you will find them dropping big names of, the title ambassador at the end of the day, those prestigious appointments and all that. But then I should think, if we guide our young people properly, that should not be the motivation per se. Okay, I know everybody wants to have a good perks, you're in a good prestigious job, you're getting good money, you can sustain yourself. But then you realize right now, if you go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because this personal experience, you will find that quite a number are not, are not people who have been trained on those skills. Yeah, there are other dynamics that come into play.
Okay.
So
please.
at the end of the day,
yes,
you find those of us who have invested our money and our time studying these things in the IR are out here. The country is not tapping into our skills. Like I have a lot of classmates in the doctoral class.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Nothing.
We are really pressed on time. We are really pressed on time. Thank you very much for your insights on that. And like Saddam, to pick it up from there, then later on, Kivoy, Dr. Douglas Kivoy will be speaking to us on the role of research and academia. We don't have too much time left, so I'd really ask that we observe time. Balongo, I'll be coming back to you shortly as well. Saddam, on turning skills into engines of economic growth, George has set us off on that. I'd like you to pick up from where he's left.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Takisa. Listening to other previous panelists and contributors, I'm trying to be positive, and I think this is the reality now we have to face as young people or the graduates. that now there are limited jobs, and these limited jobs, there are a number of reasons, including technology advancement, and also sometimes populations, because we are growing. There is a growing population of people, and sometimes the numbers are limited. And also the technology has created new jobs, but also the same technology has disrupted the employment sector. But on the other side, now the future is technology, and there is no way that we can fight against technology. Now
So
how
do we align to that?
Yes, the future is to embrace it, and now on how to utilize the skills that we have. And I argue to graduates to think like when they're coming in the labor market, and not just out of school, they should consider on the two paths, either to venture into the business, either to establish a business company by selling products or services. And also on the other way, there are skills which I believe that they can mobilize together at individual capacity or forming a group to provide professional services. I believe always young people, usually after exiting from school, sometimes they wondering like, how can I start? What do I? And I believe like my motto, and I've been saying this to a number of young people, like start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can, because they have skills, and sometimes they have to come together, and they have to identify their skills, like are they relevant to the market? And if not relevant to the market, now there are a number of training facilities, training institutions which are providing some of the free training services, and the others even paid training services. But I believe they can sharpen their soul so as to be better into the market, either in the labor market or in the business sector. And yes, that is my quick response on that. And also the importance of researching the market, either in the business or in the self-employment. Example, maybe they will venture in the consultant services or giving professional services, the likes of lawyers, doctors, engineers, architects, financial experts, and so. So they have also to study the market, either the local market, and the national market, or the international market, because there is a new way of how to deal or to enter into the market. 10 years back or 15 years back, people had no idea that there could be an invention on payment solutions such as an M-Pesa.
That's true.
Now, yeah. So imagine like even into the transport services. Now there is no, now previously go to the taxi industry. Taxi industry, it was less respected sometimes, you know, as taxi. But now Uber and Bolt and other Taxify, and so they have made it sexy. It's an application. Anyone who is having a car can register, and it has expanded the number of drivers to commercialize their skills as just a basic driving skill. And sometimes people to make their living. Our grandfathers and mothers back then, they didn't know even to read and write. Just listening and speaking was the major skills for you to earn a living, to negotiate the leadership and so. So now we're having a number of skills that we can learn, but also skills, sometimes even the current things that we are learning, they keep changing every day. You might be studying Microsoft Office 2007, and then you are advancing to master it, it comes 2010, and now you're mastering Microsoft 2010, and then it comes 2013.
Yeah.
So you have to learn every day the market, whether it's a business or the employment sector.
Yeah.
And also, yes, that is my brief.
Continuous learning, and of course, Mudoni Ndegwa started by mentioning that. And I'm seeing a comment on the chat from Henry Gordon who says, the problem we have is that students are programmed to go to school, study hard, and earn good grades. This denies them an opportunity to be open-minded. And you've mentioned the importance of being open-minded, and especially a time like now. We also see Dr. Kivoi saying, most are narrow-minded, conditioned only to operate in their discipline, which is very true. So growing up, and I'll speak of a personal experience. It was go to school, get good grades, go to a good high school, get good grades, go to university, study a prestigious, get to a prestigious class or course. I had a very big fight with my parents to let me study media because it was not deemed very prestigious back then. And then after that, get married, get kids, wait for death. That's just how it has always been for a very long time. So now there's a lot of disruptions. We are tackling a different world from what perhaps our parents lived in. And at this point, so then, how important is it to incorporate research in this new world? We're talking about developing skills, Dr. Kivoi. We're talking about an ever-changing world of work. We're looking at a situation in a country and a continent where unemployment is at an all-time high. How do we incorporate research to perhaps ensure we use data to make informed decisions on the same?
Okay, thank you, Akisa, and thank you, my colleagues. Open-mindedness is a key skill without which you can't survive anywhere in this world. And I'm glad that one of us, Paul, raised that. And then you have got the other skill of adaptability and flexibility. If you cannot adapt, if you're not flexible, you will not survive. Now, I am talking about research, not to tailor my talk towards any particular discipline. You can go and study any course you want to study, but are you adaptable to the ever-changing world? Are you flexible? Are you open-minded? Because open-mindedness will help you navigate the dynamic labor market, without which you will not go anywhere. There are people, I'll give you a story where when I was growing up, we used to have bicycles that used to ferry people, passengers. We didn't have vehicles there. Then motorbikes came. Some of my classmates who never bothered to take an interest in the motorbikes were rendered redundant, because who would bought a motorbike when there is who would bought a bicycle, sorry, when there's a motorbike? Now you see, it's the same individuals, the same players. We had those players who had bicycles, but because of the change that came in terms of motorbikes, they were able to adapt and they were flexible enough, and now they went and learned how to operate this motorbike. And now they found themselves even collecting more money than when they used to have bicycles. So we cannot say that I'm not watching for any course. What I'm saying is, as an individual, when you finish your studies, whichever course you are doing, make sure you keep improving your skills to ensure that you are marketable as far as the prevailing norms and market conditions allow. You cannot say you did BCom in 1980 and then you stick to BCom up to now. No, you must take interest. What has changed? We have got artificial intelligence, and you are saying that you want to give people a wheelbarrow. Are we serious as a country? What is the role of wheelbarrows in the 21st century? We are talking of IT, artificial intelligence, and the others are giving young people wheelbarrows. It's very, very unfortunate. So that's why I say open-mindedness. You must also be a complex-minded person. You should be able to solve complex issues without necessarily getting emotional, emotional intelligence. Those are skills which will not be taught in schools, but you must learn by sitting with the right individuals who will shape you to ensure that you adapt and change and become more productive in as far as the country is concerned. Lastly, I want to just ask a question. Kenyatta University teaches agriculture. They have no farm. Where will these people go and work if they've not learned agriculture in the school? I've been to Kenyatta University. I studied in Kenyatta University. They teach agriculture. They have no farm. They don't have animals. They don't produce any milk. So where are these people going to work if they've not seen how milk is reared in an animal? So we need to get serious. When we know the needs of this country, Kenya is an agrarian economy. We hear that every budget, the rains have affected our growth. But how many institutions of higher learning are teaching agriculture? And the few that are teaching agriculture, is it practical? Is it useful, or is it just theoretical? So we need to move away from theory and insist on the practicality of what is being taught. And that's now we have to come in with these skills that I've just talked about. There are so many of them, I can't exhaust them. But the key one is emotional intelligence, open-mindedness, critical and creative thinking. You must be analytical. You must be able to analyze a number of issues so that you can make an informed choice or decision. You can't say that you will be operating in your area. Teaching, for example, some of my colleagues I went to school with, up to now, they've not been employed because they were conditioned to say, me, I'll only be a teacher. And when TSC no longer employs them directly, so they have to be flexible. They have to be adaptable. You ask yourself, I trained as a teacher, but what can I do now that TSC has not employed me? That's how we will survive in the future.
Dr. Kivoi, thank you very much. And I like that you mentioned practicality. For a very long time, it was either you go to universities or polytechnics, and these are institutions that were viewed to be for failures. But this particular government, since 2013, has taken a very key interest in TVETs. We've seen a lot of investments around TVET institutions in the country. Now in almost every village, you can see that there is this particular institution, a TVET institution, now works on these practical skills that you're talking about. And at this point, I want to bring in Jared Musima, the Kenya YMCA CEO and Zonal Coordinator, Eastern and Southern Zone, on the role of TVETs, that we've taken very keen interest in this particular institutions. And I'm speaking as a TVETer because I went to the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. How central are these particular institutions when we're talking about an advanced skills system, perhaps in this country?
Yeah, thank you very much, Akisa Wandera, for this opportunity. And I'll try to be brief. We are all aware that Kenyan population is made up of over 70% of youth in this country. And according to United Nations Development Program, we have young people who have been trained in this kind of skills, developer skills. But out of this all number of young people who are trained, only 39% are able to get absorbed into gainful labor market, and 61% of them remain unemployed and end up in slums or joining militia groups in the country. And this one brings me back to what Dr. Balongo was talking about. The problem is the Ministry of Labor. And maybe a solution to this is to create a labor commission in this country. We don't know whether it will be able to function. We have an organization called the National Employment Authority. I don't know what they are doing in terms of coming up with labor needs analysis so that they can be able to match skills and labor needs in this country. When you go to countries like Germany and South Korea, you find that most of the people who are trained in the institutes get absorbed because they undertake this labor needs analysis every year to ensure that whatever young people are learning, the needs that we have in the labor market. So having said that, we know very well that the vets are expected to play a key role in providing relevant skills that will drive the economy and enable the country to achieve its economic growth, which will ultimately reduce the poverty and unemployment and promote decent living. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, existing institutional infrastructure, staffing, equipment, financing mechanism, governance systems are inadequate to effectively produce quality graduates for the economy. Evidence from employers, according to United Nations Development Program, revealed that graduates from TVETs lack experience in using modern equipment. They also lack adequate trade skills, innovation, creativity, knowledge due to limited practical exposure. You know, they go through training, but they are not exposed to practical experience or work environment. Why? Because we have limited opportunities for such young people, and you find that most of them even struggle to get attachments when they are in college. So this one creates a lot of challenge for them. And I find that when they are employed, they are not able to offer quality. They cause a lot of wastages, and their productivity is very low. Right. And also, you find that these young people who are trained like in masonry or plumbing and all that, they are not able, because they are not properly trained and they are not properly exposed. You find that if you give them a job like repairing a plumbing issue in an institution or a company somewhere, they will not take time to really look at the sketch of the building and drawing so that they can be able to know where the problem is. They will come and take 4 days or 10 days trying to locate where the problem is. This is because of lack of practical exposure.
Right.
You'll find that as the population continues to grow and all that, skills in Tibet will still be required. We need young people to be trained in electrical and electronic technology. They need to be trained in motor vehicle technology, building technology, and others like agribusiness, food processing technology, plumbing technology, data harvesting skills. They need that so that they can be able to provide data to policy experts to make decisions and all that. So they need to have those skills in data harvesting skills so that they can be able to visit search engines, YouTube and all that to get information.
Right.
You'll find that we are now really progressing in technology advancement.
Okay.
And therefore young people need to have skills. You'll find that other universities out there are coming up with courses like blockchain course. MIT is one of the universities that is coming up with that course. You go to a country like South Africa, they are trying to establish artificial intelligence institute so that people can be able to learn and have skills in this area. You find that over time, marketing skills are still required, and technology has really revolutionized marketing. We have this digital marketing coming up, social media and all that, and the young people need these skills. But because of the challenges that I mentioned above, you find that they have a challenge. You find that there is great need to empower the youth digitally. And according to Google research, they have indicated that by 2025, digital economy will be generating 19.5 trillion Kenya shillings to the economy. And it will be creating 3 million jobs in the continent of Africa. We need green skills because of the advent of ecotourism, wind power, solar energy, and all that. Nursing skills will still be required because we are having aging population. And therefore, just like the developed world, where we are having nursing skills required so much in Africa, we are going to have these soft skills.
I'd like you to wind up.
So what is important is that there is a great need for collaboration between the government, debates, industry players to design relevant courses and training programs to meaningfully meet the needs of the economy.
Thank you.
And globally.
Thank you very much. And let's bring in John Arono now, because he'll be speaking on the same thing, on skills of the future and the role of TVET. You've put it very clearly, and perhaps some of the skills we need as we move into the future, or we live in the now, in this ever-changing world of work. John Arono is the head of research and development at the Sigalagala National Polytechnic. Jonah, are you with us? John Arono? Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Makisa. Now, as you heard, I'm John Arono at the Sigalagala National Polytechnic. I want to chip in the area of the, are you getting me?
Yes, we can get you clearly. Go ahead. We can get you clearly.
Yes, so I was saying I want to add something small on what my colleague has said on the role of TVET. He has actually enumerated a number of areas where we have skills demand. And I just want to point out some of the aspects what we are doing in TVET, particularly the TVET institutions. I'll be drawing examples from could possibly those that are around us. Now, we are all aware that we have had reforms in the TVET sector in the recent past, key among which include the TVET Act number 29 of 2013, which has really created a number of organs, including TVETA, TVET CDAC. We had the TVET Funding Board, which is yet to be operational. Now, in those reforms, it was based on the challenges which we have been witnessed before, the skills merge, the lack of relevance, quality, and so forth. So in TVET, there are a number of things which are going on which go towards supporting or ensuring that these skills that are demanded are actually supplied. I'll start off with the
Okay, I think something happened. Yeah, technology. We'll have to get used to that. Sorry about that. I don't know if Rono is with us to just finish up his point before we go to our next speaker. And perhaps we'll do, I don't know whether we have much time, but perhaps a minute each. We don't have too much time left. Let's have John Arono, then we'll go back to Wilson Balongo to finish up his point. Wilson is from the School of Business and Economics at the Cabrac University. I think we don't have Rono yet, but he's also from the Sigalagala National Polytechnic, Head of Research and Development. Once we get him, we'll be able to finish up with that conversation on the role of TVETs and industry. And we also saw Jared mention that perhaps the reason why TVET students from TVET are able to be observed in the absorbed rather in the job market rather fast is that there is continuous research around job skills and the labor market and what is needed. Wilson, you started by saying the biggest problem is at the Ministry of Labor, but even at these institutions of higher learning, do we do research? Do we take a look at this ever-changing world and tweak our teaching to be in response to that?
Thank you, Akisa. At institutions, we do that. Probably just to give an illustration, I will ask. Probably I know, okay, at the moment we are 31. I believe not less than 10 people in this forum have either applied for the green card to go to the US or ever intended, true or false. But have you ever asked yourself, why does the US give green cards?
I have no intention.
And not the other countries. It all comes from the Ministry of Labor. So what they do is they have to establish the gap. How many plumbers are they missing? How many electricians are they missing? How many nurses are they missing? And they'll tell you green card. All Kenyans will run there. If they are very genuine, why will they just give you a green card and tell you, you get to the US and decide wherever you want to go? It's because they've already determined demand and supply of labor in each and every state. That's why when they give you that green card, they'll tell you, for example, you go to Texas. So once you get to Texas, you're a citizen. You have to pay taxes. And for you to pay taxes, you have to be employed. That's why you'll see professors from Kenya, they'll go there and start washing dishes or doing some funny jobs. It all starts with the Ministry of Labor. Determine demand and supply. Then advise the institutions. The curriculums are they're so good. Tell us how many plumbers do we need in Kenya? Tell us how many mechanics do we need in Kenya? How many pharmacists do we need in Kenya? That is it. Once we're done with that, so that we stop producing so many teachers, so many accountants, then you'll see nuts every day in the streets. Ministry of Labor, I come back, kindly do labor economics, demand and supply. It then advise the institutions, then even the students, as they're learning, they'll know if I go to this particular course, there is oversupply, I won't get a job. And then we'll now lessen this thing of job mismatch, whereby you have a student who has done computer science, then ending up being a banker, a teller, and is done computer science. We are wasting a lot of resources.
Yeah.
It is high time we get HR professionals to straighten out this thing and advise the government. Can we first of all start with basics, labor economics, demand and supply, and then also now advise the institutions. The curriculums are they are so good. It's because students don't know what to do, parents don't know what to do, employers, they're waiting. Who advises the employers? It should be the Ministry of Labor telling the employers, now there's a shortage of these. We don't have these people in the market. I think, okay, just to finish up is, if we go to the basics and ask yourself, why does the US give out green cards? Go back. It is because their Ministry of Labor works out. So I think for us, maybe Kenya, we can start maybe with the white card. Thank you.
Way to end it, a white card perhaps. I'd love to hear comments on that and the whole issue of green cards. John, I don't know whether you're with us. I'd really like to give you a chance to finish articulating your points. My apologies, we experienced some technical hitches, but the floor is yours. Under 2 minutes.
Sorry for the technical. Thank you. I'm sorry for the technical hitch. Now, I was saying that currently we have rolled out CBET programs. So part of our role, what we are doing to contribute the skills gap, we are trying as much as possible to deliver quality and flexible CBET training in our training institutions. We have a number of levels, starting from the national polytechnics, the technical vocational colleges, and the vocational training centers, offering various levels. Now, these programs, they were developed with industry input, so we can be sure that whatever you are training or delivering at the moment is actually what is required in the industry. Now, the other thing is that what goes alongside the quality delivery of the CBET training is the nature of the facilities, it's the nature of the equipment in our labs. Now, if you go around most of our, at least the public TV institutions, you'll find that they are well equipped. We have state-of-the-art equipment, so that is critical in imparting the necessary skills, the practical skills to our trainees, which will close this gap, which has previously existed. Now, the other thing that has happened in the recent past is in the recruitment of the trainers who are to impart these skills. In the past, we have had trainers or teachers who have a background in education being recruited by the Teacher Service Commission, as it were. Now, because of this shift in employment regulations, the current nature of employment, current trainers which we have, you find most of them are being drawn from the industry as opposed to those who had only gone through the educational. So you find that they are coming with some experience. We also enhance that collaboration between the two. Now, the last point is that the capacity building of our trainers. This equipment which we have, most of which were being maybe funded by the government through the Ministry of Education. So you'll find that they went alongside the commissioning. There were training which were conducted. So you'll find most of our trainers in these institutions have undergone a number of capacity building programs. So you'll find we have quality trainers, we have state-of-the-art equipment, we have a CBET curriculum with a flexible mode of delivery. All those combined will contribute towards ensuring we have the necessary skills imparted to our trainees.
Right.
The last point is, apart from the curriculum which we adopt from CEDAC, we also have the mandate of developing our own curriculum. And an example is at where I am, Sigaleka National Polytechnic, we have developed a curriculum in solar PV in consultation with the industry. So you find that there's a process. What we did, there is a skills gap which was identified following some study. This was done in collaboration with the Canadian government. So such like approaches where you develop a curriculum with the input of the industry will go a long way in the same. What I would recommend, the problem we have had is that there is duplication of programs in each and every institution. Going forward, if we would have centers, training institutions specializing in a particular field or trade, fully equipped, trainers fully trained, we will be better off as a TVET. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lorna. Thank you very much for articulating that very clearly. I don't know whether we still have Modhoni. I'd like to get her final thoughts. I'd like us to wind up in the next maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And I'll pick a gentleman and a lady who have been following closely to give us remarks perhaps on their thoughts on some of the things that have been said. Mr. Josephat, I'll give you a chance to at least say something, as well as Nasubo Imelda. But Modhoni, to you.
All right, thank you everybody for their contributions. I agree there's need to change the way we do work, the way we do our education. And also for the professionals, also take charge, allow yourselves to learn. I had someone mention about soft skills, very, very important. Some of these things you may not really be taught in school, but the opportunities are available to learn. Be flexible. There's a term we have now had a lot, agility. Be very flexible to the changing way of doing things. That way you'll find yourself more acceptable in terms of your skills in the job market, over and above the technical skills that you're bound to get in the training institutions. I've had someone else mention about the labor market being able to collaborate with the institutions, advising the institutions on what is required in the job market. I agree, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. We hope from this forum we can get insights into how that can be done, so that we begin the conversations if they have not already begun, so that we are producing people who are ready for the job market.
Right, thank you very much. Let's get comments from those that have been following up this conversation. A minute each. I'll start with you, Josephat. I can't quite pronounce your first name, so you might want to help me with that.
Oh, my first name is Juma.
Oh, I'm seeing Ligami something on the...
Oh, Ligami, okay.
I'm not sure about that. Let's go ahead.
Okay, this is a very interesting conversation, but I think the bottom line is let us learn to be problem solvers, and then let us nurture people who are solving problems. For instance, I've seen people in this country who are coming up with aeroplanes. I've seen people in this country who have come up with their own radio stations. You see, these are very innovative guys whose mind should at least be nurtured. There's a Tanzanian friend who is at least establishing Google that Tanzania and East Africa will use, a Google platform. The irony behind all these things is like the Tanzanian, people outside the country are really more interested in him, willing to fund him in order to at least advance his project. But then his country is not doing that. So why can't we nurture our own people also so that they upskill? Thank you.
All right, the other Josephat, is it Ligami? I'm not very sure about that. You've been following up the conversation. Talk to us in under a minute.
Thanks, actually want to thank the panelists for what they are doing. And I just want to say a rich literature links between education, skills, productivity, and economic growth, like us in our politicians. And that's where the problem starts. So if from the political side they make some policies, then they're going to be good when it comes to
struggling. We're really struggling to hear you. Not sure we'll be able to get you very clearly. I think your connection has a problem, so we'll get back to that. Let's get a final comment here from Imelda Nasubo. I understand she's a young engineering student. So for the sake of gender representation, and I'm a big voucher of that, let's hear from Imelda.
Thank you so much, Akisa. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I am Mr. Adero student. So I would like to just give my final remarks with one of the things that he normally says during our lectures. He normally insists us having the desire to upskill, to reskill, and to deep skill. That means that one of the panelists say that every time there are normally changes to the software, to the technology. So there's always that need to upskill, to reskill, and to deskill. And that is going to impact our economy and to bring growth.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us, Modoni. Nashon, Adero, a mentor at Presidential Digital Talent Program in Kenya and a lecturer at the Taita Taveta University. We had Wilson Balongo from the School of Business and Economics at the Kabrak University. Thank you for being with us. Saddam Halfan Ahmed, Head of Operations at Pomoja Communication, and George Mangi, a lecturer at the Riara University. We also spoke to Dr. Douglas Kivoi, a Senior Policy Analyst at Kipra, and Jared Musima, Kenya YMCA CEO and Zonal Coordinator of Eastern and Southern Zone. And finally, John Arono, Head of Research and Development at Sigalagala National Polytechnic. And of course, everyone else who followed this conversation. Very, very interactive, very active, even on the chats. Next, I can see on the program, Sitati Wasilwa will be coming in with how technology is transforming industries, responses from leaders and organizations. That session is coming in at 3 p.m. So be sure to join Sitati and his panel as they will be continuing with this program. I am Akisa Wandera. Thank you very much for listening and being very active in this particular session. I'd now like to hand over the program to Juma.
Thank you, Akisa Wandera, for at least moderating this program very ably. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And as she has said, I also echo her in thanking all the people who have participated in this forum as panelists and who have contributed in one way or another towards the ideas that we've been sharing. This debate will continue, and I welcome us all for the other session. Please, if you can get some time so that we discuss how technology is transforming industries, and we shall be able to hear responses from industry leaders and other organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone.